before that last loss against Makhachev, Volk was unstoppable, and everyone would have said so. Volk, no one would have second-guessed him. No one would have second-guessed his reign. And then to a degree, I still don't. I think in his division, he's been a monster. There hasn't really been anyone that's come close. Having a loss like that, the way it happened with Makhachev, he also opened up after the fight. There's things there. You don't know. Headspace is such a big part of the fight world and the fight game.
He's never been slept like that.
Yeah.
And
you need to recover.
Not just recover, but we go back to the confidence. The way that he was performing, none of these guys could touch him with a 10-foot pole. And that being said, that armor of confidence you had around you is now gone.
Everyone gets uneasy, but it's just how you bounce back from it. The beauty is people got to see me like that. Again, usually as a camera not in your face at your most vulnerable. There was for me, but all good. I'm glad people see me like that. I'm not ashamed of that at all. But now everyone gets to see the bounce back. So the beauty of it is people get to see vulnerable. People can think what they want, whether they see it as weakness or where a lot of people are like, oh wow, they can relate. Now that you feel like you can relate, when you're down, you've seen me at my lowest point. Watch me at my highest point next February. Watch me go out and do what I'm going to do. People get to see that process. And again, I'm sort of in the same spot where a lot of people are like, oh shit, is this going to be the downfall, blah, blah, blah. Trust me, I'm the same guy I was that you've seen last year and whatnot, or earlier this year. I'm that same guy. But a lot of people, recency bias, which is a beautiful thing about this sport. People do quickly forget, which keeps it exciting. So I'm glad for that. But now everyone gets to see the bounce back. So I'm looking forward to it.
That no one can match my level of skill inside the cage. I know that I can finish anyone in this division. It don't going to be like different with Alex, The rest of this is going to be the same. I'm gonna knock him out in the first round, second round. If not, I'm gonna dominate him for 5 rounds, no problem.
Obviously, Volk's experience, he is probably one of the best champ of that division. That division has seen. Yeah. And easily, Topuria needs to show some respect.
Like he could be as good as he's saying. He could be as good as what everyone's saying, but he hasn't been able to prove that yet. So that's what I say when he's carrying on like, how good am I? It's like going, look, you could be that good. Maybe February you show me that. But till then, till you're first someone at this level, no offense to him, but he hasn't, and until you show the world and myself something different to what you've done, like, don't get me wrong, again, I still think he's a great fighter, but I mean, it's just the same Ilya turning up to all his fights, I haven't seen that elite stuff yet, you know what I mean? He might be able to show that February.
But who is it that more likely is actually going to win? Guys, it's hard to doubt a guy that has defended his title, that has gone up in weight division, has had close fights against the number 2 pound for pound. The biggest thing, who I'm going for? I am going for Ilya Topuria. But it's hard to go against a guy who was very well-rounded, who has fought that level of competition that Alexander Volkanovski has. There's one thing that I would say that would make me really comfortable to bet that house on a guy like Ilya Topuria, because I am going for him. If he can protect his leg kicks, and if he can bring back some of that Georgian wrestling into this fight, I could see Ilya Topuria not only just beating him, but actually dominating in this fight.
Ilya Topuria told Volkanovski, get ready to tap out. Now, tapping out Volkanovski seems like a very hard thing to do, but I thought it was an interesting comment. And I thought of him as a striker, so I went and looked up his record. It's a beautiful record, by the way. But he started off as a Greco-Roman wrestler, at least until he was like 15 years old. And he did this from the country of Georgia. And he does have a whole slew of submissions. Like, his ground game is very impressive. And the fact that he thinks not only can he beat Volk, but that he can tap Volk, I do think is interesting.
Like, if he thinks he's going to be able to out wrestle me, with what I've seen, like, you know what I mean? Like, he needs to show more than what he's done with the wrestling, a lot more. If that's going to be a threat, submission-wise, a lot more. Because if he's going to go out there and be able to dominate me like that, that's in a sense where take me down and submit me. It's never been done before. So he's showing something that, like, no one's been able to do. So, and if he's that good and he goes, all right, he can show us that.
Generally, Ilia Topuria, even if he comes up against adversity, he's able to find the finish later in the fight. He was exciting coming through the lower ranks, coming through Cage Warriors. I mean, you saw the two ends of his game. He's either going to clamp onto your neck and strangle the life out of you, or he's going to knock you out cold. Or, you know, I mean, maybe somewhere between the two. Maybe he's going to knock you down to the floor and then strangle the life out of you. But either way, he's a very, very difficult and dangerous person to deal with. I'm very high on Ilia Topuria. I think he's got a very bright future ahead of him.
This is not only a guy that will fight for the belt, he could win the belt. He might be one of the few who could actually challenge Volkanovski in all those different domains that is mixed martial arts. And I think Ray said it beautifully. Just beautiful fundamentals. And what I like about his movement and his balance is the fact that he has his feints and movement, everything built in together. Like, there is no, like, he's constantly in a nice rhythm, and then he'll change up that rhythm and throw you off. He can counter you. He can go first. He can go second. His exits are really pretty. Like, he'll land a shot. He'll get away.
What is Topuria's best game plan to beat Volk? This is a great question. I think he's got two ways that I think he could even potentially try to do it. He's shown that he's got pretty dynamite boxing, right? And unreal power in those hands when he wants to let it go. But he's also a very slick jiu-jitsu player, which he hasn't really gotten to showcase too much. But Volk being the powerhouse and the short stature that he has, I think his best way to potentially get Volk is to try to catch him on the feet and then maybe take it to the ground. I don't see him just taking Volk down at will or controlling him and setting up submissions like that. I think he's going to have to try to make it just a crafty, you know, stand-up striking battle and hope that he's the better striker in the pocket and in those boxing exchanges.
Yeah, I think that he has got to use, when you're fighting Volkanovski, you have to stick to your strengths. You have to stick to what's gotten you to that big fight. You can't make adjustments, especially against a guy as well-rounded as Volkanovski. So I think for Topuria, if anything, you got to focus on takedown defense. You got to make sure your takedown defense is on point, because when you have that boxing style and you keep your hands high with that high guard, it opens up the legs. Just like we talked about with Moreno and Pantoja. So for Ilia Topuria, focus on the boxing, focus on the takedown defense, and stick to what's gotten you into title contention. Don't make any adjustments. Now's not the time for that. Sharpen your best blades, work on your takedown defense. That would be my advice for Topuria in a fight with Volkanovski.
I just feel like Alex has got too many tools. I saw like some statistics from Ilia's fights, and the amount he's thrown like one low kick or like one kick above the leg in his entire UFC career, which is a pretty incredible. Like, that's you need those tools. You need to use all of your tools. Alex utilizes all of his tools. Ilia's obviously a very strong boxer, strong wrestler, but Alex just has too many weapons.
I do lean towards Volkanovski because I think he just mixes it up a little bit more than Topuria. If Topuria adds in those kicks, I think it makes his game a little bit more well-rounded, and it brings a different wrinkle to the game other than just training for boxing, where Volk just has to stay on the outside, touch him up with calf kicks, inside leg kicks, clinch him up the way he did Jose Aldo when they fought, and that can make things tricky for Topuria. So Topuria has to do his homework if he wants to get his hand raised in that matchup.
Topuria's going to have his hands full if Volk comes on, if we see Volk of old, right? If he bounces back from his loss with Makhachev the way we want him to. But also, in the same vein, Volk's going to have his handful if we see a hungry Topuria coming in there. Hungry, nothing to lose. Like, get in there, try and dethrone Volk. So,
ooh, okay, that's another one that's going to be really, really tough for Volk. I'll lean towards Volk as far as because of experience, but I think that's going to be a way tough challenge for him.
Man, nah, I can't be biased on that. I keep it real. I think it's hard to pick against Volk. Volkanovski's looking undeniable, bro. And like that last fight he took was on short notice, coming off of surgery. He had nothing to lose, so I think give him a full training camp. That is a hard guy to beat.
Man, great fight. I think stylistically too, and it's gonna be. I think you kind of hit on the head, James. Is how does Volkanovski? How much time does he have off in between the knockout, and how does he feel, and how does it affect him? How could it affect him? So I think those things are very important aspects to look at. And then, man, like we saw Topuria go out and do what he did against Josh Emmett. Man, this kid's a real deal. I'm looking forward to that fight. I lean towards Volkanovski in that. I just feel like he has a lot more tools, but he's also, in my opinion, the guy who continues to evolve and grow. Every time out, you see him doing better and better. And so I think the 145-pound division is where he belongs. And, I think Volkanovski's the guy that goes out and gets the job done.
I got Volkanovski. I think he's just super well-rounded. Don't get me wrong. He did lose his last fight. He did get clipped. But it's part of the game. I think at 45s, he's probably the best. You know what I mean? I'm a big Aldo fan, but he's probably Volkanovski's probably the GOAT. And he's very technical. He's good everywhere. I got Volkanovski.
I wanted to say Volk, but I think the fact that he got knocked out does not. I don't think it's enough time between fights. Your jaw doesn't heal up that quickly, so I think Topuria could definitely catch him.
I've been having mixed thoughts about it, just because I'm a big Volk. I'm a big fan of both the guys, but I think Volk. You can never count Volk out. But the thing is, I think Volk is having a quick turnaround, so you never know how that goes. And from what I've heard, every time you get knocked out, it takes time to truly fully heal from it. And Illy's on a streak right now, and he's young too. So I don't know. I'm gonna go by Volk.
Okay.
I feel like you can never count Volk out.
I think Volkanovski. Yeah, I think he'll hold on to it. I think Islam's a beast and caught him, and he took that fight on 10 days notice, and people kind of running him through the mud a little bit. But prior to that, everyone's like, he's the greatest of all time. He's pound for pound one. And Topuria's shown that he can get hurt. I think if he's getting hurt by Jai Herbert, I feel like Volk will be able to find him.
Volk. I think Volk.
Taking Volkanovski.
Why are you throwing the hard ones at me, bro? Volkanovski. I'm a huge Topuria fan, and I hope Topuria wins. I want to see new blood. I want to see, a young, undefeated, unchallenged guy. I would love to see some new blood. But I think that the fact that they're making Volkanovski, because he lost a fight that he took on 11 days to look at what he did to Islam with a full camp. Now let's say that he does that, then he beats who did he beat? Yair, and then he fights. If nobody would be giving Topuria a chance, but because he took a risk on 11 days notice, he wanted to make some money and challenge himself, and he came up short, just like we all do sometimes. Now everybody thinks he's gonna lose. No, you got to take Alex.
Topuria, man, I really like him, but I think he's getting too high up on himself. Like, he said this is gonna be the easiest fight of his career. I'm like, there's no way, dude. Like, I know Volk didn't look good in his last fight, but people could not judge him off that last fight. And he did not look right. He had to cut a lot of weight just to make 55, and it was something that he really wanted back, was that win. And he did really great against Islam the first time. So I actually think Volk's going to do really good in this fight, and I think we're going to see him expose Topuria in the later rounds. And I don't know if he'll finish him, but I think Volk's going to get this win.
That's a sick one, man. That's a sweet fight. Volkanovski's probably like the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, so I'm going to go with him. But I think the big X factor in this one is, how does he come back from a first-round knockout loss? That wasn't. I don't think that was a great indication of where his skills are and stuff. You take a fight on short notice like that. Like, even if you're mentally strong, you think you beat this guy in the last fight. Like, when one guy gets a camp and one guy doesn't at the highest level, it's pretty hard to nullify that, especially when you're giving up size.
I've really become a big fan of Ilia Topuria, man. I've been watching a lot of his fights and stuff, man, and I don't want to say because I love Alex too, but I think it's time. I think it's the time to pass the torch, and I think Ilya is going to get it done.
Volkanovski. I've seen Volkanovski train. He came and did his Shark Tanks, the last bit of his camp at my gym once when there was when he fought Korean Zombie here in Jacksonville. So I saw him train for about 5 or 6 days, and the work ethic of that guy is something else. Just watching him, you can learn. So I think as far as well-rounded fighters, Volk is one of the pound-for-pound best. So I'm going Volkanovski there.
I've answered this 100 times today as well. Let me think. I want to give you a different answer than I've given other people. I think Topuria is going to beat him.
Really?
That's a different answer than I've given everyone else.
And it's tough. It's hard to bet against a champion. He's such a dominant champion. He's been going up. He's fought Islam twice. He's just it's just tough to bet against such a decorated champion. But Ilya is a tough, hungry, talented individual as well. So I'm not the biggest fan of predicting fights, especially like that. It's I don't know, but if I had to bet, I would probably lean towards Volkanovski just because how can you go against him? He just continues to improve, and he continues to at least earlier in his career, people were like, okay, he's going to lose this fight. Then every single time he would win and win and win. And then he earned the respect that I feel like he deserves.
Are you hoping that Ilya Topuria wins, given that you guys were supposed to fight a few times in the past? And
maybe it will be better for me if he's win. We have story, and this fight makes sense to be.
That's exciting, man. Topuria is really, really good. Topuria's got very, very good boxing, from the very good defensive wrestling from the looks of it. So hard to bet against Volk at this point, but Topuria is tough. I'm not sure. To be completely honest, I learn by studying my contemporaries. I watch what they do. I take mental notes on everybody. Obviously, everyone does that. But I learn by watching, and when I watch them on fight night, I just watch the way everybody else would. I'm not super, unless you're my teammate, like Josh Emmett or Darren Elkins, I'm screaming at the TV, throwing things. I'm standing up, pacing around the room. But if you're another guy at 45, I just watch like anybody else watches. So I'm not sure how that fight will go, but it'll be fun to watch.
You've been in there with Ilya Topuria. I'm just curious how you think he does against Alexander Volkanovski.
I think Volk is probably up there. I think he's pound number one now at the minute. I watched his last fight against. Did he just fight? Yeah. I watched that last fight, and he makes great, really good fighters look not as good as him basically. I think Ilya probably do well against him, to be honest, but I think Volk he's just on another level at the minute.
I gotta go with Volkanovski. I mean, like I was saying earlier, it comes into preparation, and watching Volkanovski's last fight and Usman's last fight, it just lets me know the preparation is where it's at. Those are the two of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, and they came out short in their fights, and it was. Not because they didn't have the skill, they didn't have the experience, but they didn't have the preparation for it. So knowing how much of a competitor Volkanovski is, and knowing that he fell short in his last fight, I can almost guarantee doing everything within his power to be successful in fight night when he defends his title. So I'm going to have to ride with him on that one.
Volkanovski.
Alex.
I think Volkanovski is going to bounce back after that loss to Makhachev. He went up in that division, short notice again. But, at 45, the guy looks nearly unstoppable. Ilya's definitely got really good boxing. I think Volkanovski, the better, just overall well-rounded game. Great feints, great mixing things up, and they're amazing game planners. So I'm going Volkanovski.
I seen that just getting announced. It's a quick turnaround for Volk, coming off, fighting Islam. That's not I know it was only a few weeks ago, but it's your body needs time to recuperate, your body needs time to recover, and it's about going back and improving. But he's still Volk, he's still Alexander the Great. So I think I have to lean that way. For me, he was one of the pound for pounds up until Islam devastatingly knocked him out. But he's still one of my favourite fighters, so I'm going to go the Great.
I'm not saying this because he lost his last fight, but Topuria. I'm not saying that because Alex lost his last fight.
Man. What's the date?
February.
That's a good amount of time. If Volkanovski had not just got finished by Islam, I would say Volkanovski. But because he did, you got to wonder who the champ is when he comes back. And that's a fight where he has to be 1,000% on, you know? So I think a lot of that will depend on how Volk takes that loss. So that's going to be a tough one to call. But, you know, like I said, Volkanovski, a guy who went on like a 20-fight win streak, smashed everybody. I think he won the first fight against Islam. So I'm going to say Volkanovski, but it'll be very interesting to see how he recovers mentally from that fight.
Volk. I don't know, that I'm torn because of what Islam did to him, you know, but then it was short notice. Is Volk rushing back? So there's a lot of things like I contemplate on that one. I think, but I want to go with my heart that Volk takes it.
That's one of the fights I'm most excited for it, because I'm a big Volk fan. But like, if there's a guy that can beat Volk at 145, that is Topuria. He's aggressive, he's fast, he can do a little bit of all. But if I'll give this one to the champ. I think he's gonna get this fight in, and he will be the champ eventually. He's the future of the division, but for now, February has a king.
Volk.
I love Volkanovski on this fight, but also you have to factor in the damage that he took this last fight. I think we talked about that a little bit, right? And how quickly he can recover from that. I don't know like the science behind it, you know, when you get knocked out like that. But I can only assume that it takes a little bit of time to get back and recollect yourself, right? So hopefully he doesn't come back too fast, and hopefully he didn't lose any of his advantages, because I know that I've always heard the expression, I don't know if it's true or not, but once you get knocked out, it's easier to get knocked out, right? From then on. So I hope that's not the case for him.
Do you think he gets it done there, or do you think Ilya will
I think Volkanovski, if vintage Volkanovski shows up, which is basically a full camped Volkanovski, I think he gets it done. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Volkanovski. I like Alex. He's one of the best, and I feel like he can do whatever he wants with anybody. So yeah, that's gonna be a dangerous fight though. But I feel like he's gonna have good success.
That's gonna be a fun one. I'm gonna go Volkanovski. I think he's gonna pull out some different tricks and mix it up in that fight.
Yeah, this is gonna be really a really good one. I love Volk, you know, he's styled. He already showed us how good he is. He fought with a lot of different guys, different styles, and he always managed a way to get the victory. But Topuria is really good, man. I like his style, the way he's boxing, and he also have knockout power. So because of the experience and everything, I go with Volk. But another one that I will not be surprised if Topuria get the knockout. You know, he's really good on his striking with his hands.
It's just like I've always said. You can do battle with strength, you can do battle with wits, but no weapon can beat a great pair of chips.